to you all to the opening of the River Dee for the 2018 season. I have to say it's fantastic to see so many people of you, and thank you for your support and thank you for coming along. I have to thank quite a number of people this morning. Firstly, Carol Fowler and the team at Banchory Lodge for allowing us to have this here, but most importantly, because without a river there would be no river opening. So Alistair Thompson and his family, Banchory Fishings, for let us cast the first fly on the water here. So thank you, Alistair, and thank you, Carol. Ian Smith piped you all in. He tells me he's got very cold fingers, which we will forgive him for. But the piping was, as ever, excellent, and Ian's a great supporter of this event and the river. We have to thank Mike Bain from Twin Rivers Gin. Gin is available for you to taste at the back, and that is a really great thing from the River Dee Trust point of view, because it's raising money for us to do all the work that we do up and down the river. There's a man who had a sleepless night last night, I imagine, which is Dan Whitehead, who supplied this fantastic marquee, but it stood up to everything that Deeside could throw at it. So thank you, Dan, for providing the marquee at what I would describe as mate's race. We really do appreciate that. We have to also thank the River Office staff who've worked hard throughout the year, but also an event like this doesn't just happen. There's a huge amount of work that goes on, and not just the guys on the car park, but everything that's involved with it, and also the way that this marquee has been laid out. So thanks to everybody who's been involved in that. This event seems to get better every year, and I'm sure you would agree that what's laid on in the marquee today is really good. So thank you to everybody who's been involved. Last year I stood here full of optimism. I was optimistic about the prospects for 2017, and thankfully we had a better year. 2017 was better than 2016, which was better than 2015. I'm confident and optimistic again. Last year was better than the year before because at least we were seeing fish in the river. There were a lot of fish in the river last year. Also, with our electro-fishing, the juvenile numbers that we were finding in the tributaries was also good and back to levels that we were seeing before Storm Frank, which is really encouraging. Also, last back end in the autumn, our red counts were fantastic. The red counts were on average 50% up on the 5-year average, proving again that there were lots of fish in the river. So I'm confident the river is in good health and good heart. We continue with our programme of habitat improvement and restoration, removing obstacles, continuing with our tree work, and also with our buffer strips, which are so important to stop diffuse pollution and to improve the habitat. This year we're starting to experiment with putting large woody debris into the river, and also I hope that we will be able to start with nutrient enrichment in the upper catchment to try to increase the productivity of those little birds up in the Upper Dee. Our smelt tagging and tracking project has completed its 2nd year. We're going into our 3rd year now, and we're increasing the listening array, so we'll be able to track things further out into the sea, which is really exciting. The results that are being produced are actually fascinating, but we do have one major concern, which is that the fish that are being tagged right up at the top of the river in the Baddock, which for those of you who don't know, it is beyond Braemar, up the Cluny and turn right. Smelts that were tagged up in there, of them, only 30% made it to the harbour. Smelts that were tagged in the Belty and the Sheak, about 80% made it to the harbour. They all go straight through the harbour, by the way. The harbour is no problem, they just go straight through the harbour, they don't hang about. But so, interestingly, of the smolts that were tagged up there, nearly all of them got to Dinnet. Okay, they got to Dinnet alive. That's no reflection on Edward Humphrey, who I know is not here today, thankfully. Anyway, they made it to Dinnet, and it was then that they started to die. So what we need to do is to find out why they died, and more importantly, what we can do to protect them to get down the river. Because losing 70% of your smolts in that distance is really serious. And of course, those are our spring fish traditionally. So we want to try and protect them. Now, On that vein, I have tomorrow a meeting with Mark and Lorraine Hawkins with the Scottish Government, Marine Scotland Science and SNH to discuss what can be done. We suspect predators might be involved, and I'm not imagining that the meeting will be entirely straightforward, but we certainly need to start having some grown-up conversations around the topic, and that's what we'll be starting off tomorrow. Okay. I have 2 prizes to give out today. The first for the biggest fish. The biggest fish on the river last year was caught on Lower Black Hall by Tom Ferguson in February. It was netted, landed, measured and returned by Colin Simpson and was witnessed by Lawrence Ross, the proprietor. It measured from the tip of its nose to the fork in its tail 42 inches, which on our chart says that it was 28 pounds. So I don't think Tom Ferguson is here. Is he? So, oh, he isn't. So Lawrence Ross is going to accept the prize on his behalf. So if you could come up, Lawrence, that would be great.
She gets it. I'll have to fill it. Oh,
If she gets that as well.
yeah. I'll keep that bit. Thank you.
Thank you. The second prize is the Callum Mackenzie Cup. This is a cup that is presented to a young angler who, in the judgment of the board, caught the best fish. Not necessarily the biggest fish, but the best fish. And this year is to be presented to Jacob Oliver. Jacob Oliver is an 11-year-old. I think he's probably 12 now, 12. He was 11 when he caught the fish, and was fishing at Lower Invercold and Banchory with his grandfather and father, neither of whom managed to catch a fish when they were up in June. Anyway, Jacob caught a 14-pound fresh fish on a size 10 editor under the tutelage or guidance of David Murray. So congratulations to you, Jacob. Before I ask Heather Mackenzie to present the cup, the story doesn't end there, because 20 years ago, Jacob's father, Joel, then aged 18, was also fishing with David Murray and caught his first fish on the Dee. So there's a most fantastic, and I gather that his grandfather, your grandfather, also caught your first fish at Banchory with one of the Murrays, probably not David, probably the birthday boy. So anyway, it's a really lovely story. So congratulations to you, Jacob, on winning the Callum Mackenzie Cup. Congratulations.
Yes, Annie should say something. Sorry, I drove a long way for this.
First, I'd just like to thank the Murray family for letting me fish such a wonderful river. I'd also like to thank the Mackenzie family for donating such a memorable trophy. And finally, my dad and my uncle for financing the trip.
Gentlemen dressed for fishing on my right who have come all the way over from Norway, and one of them, I'm slightly cross about this because the river hadn't actually officially opened at 9:15 when he hooked the first fish of the year, but congratulations to, I can't pronounce his name, but congratulations to our Norwegian friends for catching a really beautiful 9-pound fish on Lower Wood End. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate it and appreciate your support. I am, as ever, optimistic about the 2018 season. As ever, none of us actually knows what's going to happen. More fish, more salmon, I hope so long as they're the right colour, which of course is not pink. Okay. Could you grab a dram and head down to the river so that
Welcome to the banks of the River Dee. My job this morning is to introduce Andrew Flickcroft, the editor of Trout and Salmon. Under Andrew's stewardship, Trout and Salmon has been a true friend to the Dee over the years. And like any true friend, it supported us during difficult times, such as Storm Frank and the aftermath of that, and helping us get over it. But also, like a true friend, chiding us and encouraging us when we need to. And that's the sign of a good friendship. So it's with great pleasure that I'm going to hand over to Andrew to say a few words, toast the river, wait for the wind to die down, and cast the first line. Andrew.
Thank you. I'll get my glasses on. Good morning, ladies, gentlemen, and fellow fishers. It is a great honour to be asked to cast the first line on the Dee this season. I visited Deeside. On a handful of occasions, so I cannot claim to know it very well. I fished at Tilbury's with its lovely hut. I fished at the park and fell in love with Durry Stream, the lovely town of Middle Blackhall, and many of the fantastic pools on Dees and Birds. Most of these beats were fished at the start of the season, so I've witnessed the cold, easterly winds blowing up the Dee Valley. I've had to clear sheets of ice in order to fish and the ice from the rod rings. But each of these beats holds special memories for one reason or another. I've caught 2 Dee springers in that time, and neither were big, but both were very special. They were Dee springers. I'm sure you'll agree that catching any springer is challenging and rewarding. But catching a Dee springer is, to me, the most iconic and highly prized. This river is unique. It's as if it was made to swing a fly. It's shallow, lively, and it sparkles like no other. For someone who started fishing in the peaty water of the Borderesk as a boy, to see and fish the Dee for the first time was a revelation. As many of you know, catching a salmon now is more challenging than ever. The numbers of salmon in our rivers are at an all-time low. But while we wait to see what the future holds, we must continue to enjoy our wonderful salmon rivers. Now is not time to think of our sport as a numbers game. If we catch fish, that's great. If we don't, then we must celebrate the success of others. But most of all, we must celebrate just being here and doing it. The key reason we fish is because we are at our happiest when stood in the Salmon River. That's what fishing is really about. It's an escape from the daily grind. It's the sense of well-being that comes from being in the great outdoors. And it's the après fish with friends and new acquaintances that we often remember most. Some of my greatest memories of the Dee were in local establishments in this town. Moments such as a well-known Tay Gilly celebrating his opening day success with a game of semi-naked pool. And the night I found myself on a karaoke stage singing the 60s rock ballad with a complete stranger after my fishing pals had fled the scene. Time spent fishing is a unique kind of therapy. It's a way of letting your hair down that many people could benefit from. We need to start selling it as such. There are many people out there who haven't found salmon fishing yet, and we are best placed to help them find it. In the past 2 seasons, I've introduced 2 new friends to salmon fishing. It's not only enriched their busy lives, but it has mine too. To see the anticipation, excitement and fascination in their faces reminds me of when I started fishing. These newcomers have no preconceived ideas of what to expect from salmon fishing. They don't expect to take a fish. These newcomers know nothing of the time before catch and release. or of big runs of salmon, so their expectations are lower and they accept the modern sport for what it is. These newcomers are our future. So I challenge every fisher here to introduce someone to salmon fishing this season. If nothing else, they will remind you of the real reasons why we fish. Meanwhile, I'd like to suggest a National Salmon Fishing Week in 2019 aimed at beginners. We need to think differently about how we promote salmon fishing, who we promote it to, and bring the health and enjoyment it offers to a wider audience. Here's a bold idea. Imagine if we could offer free salmon fishing for 1 week. That would be a big statement. If we could get some beat owners, fishery boards, rivers trusts and clubs on board, it is they and the local businesses and communities who would ultimately benefit. And on that note, I'd like to thank both the River Dee District Salmon Fishery Board and the River Dee Trust for inviting me to drink their whisky. I wish all of you the best of luck today and for the rest of the season. I might skip the naked pool tonight, but if I do catch a springer, I'm definitely up for a sing-song.
Sweet to hear.